What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions. Good day or evening to everyone out there in the decoding world. My name is Logan, and this is Decode Your Reality, and today we're going to be breaking down and decoding pi once again. This will be pi decoded part number 2. And I got a great response from all of you great decoders out there on the first version of Pi Decoded. A lot of great comments, some amazing observations on all of your parts, and some of those will be included in this part 2 of Pi Decoded. So let's jump into it, folks. And again, I suggest throw a pairing of headphones on, getting immersed in this presentation, and maybe taking some notes. And again, I welcome your comments, and we're going to get into all that at the very end with what did you see. But starting out in the 0 position, of course, is the intro, which is what I'm doing right now. I always want to include that 0. The first topic of conversation will be what I call the voice of 3.14. Number 2, we're going to get into the year 1988. That 88, it's just, whew, wait till you see some of the syncs with that. Number 3, the guy who kind of coined, or at least came up with the Pi Day, Lawrence Shaw. Number 4, of course, I couldn't help it. Who has the 314 area code? Some of you may know. Number 5, there is a day called Tau Day, which is kind of the counterpart of Pi Day. We're going to get into that. I didn't even know it existed, but I was doing more research on Pi, and I found that. And number 6, of course, couldn't leave out, many of you picked up on this, Albert Einstein's birthday was on March 14th. We're going to, wait till you see the syncs on this stuff, man. It's just funny, folks, now. And number 7, what did you see during this presentation? Always love to hear your observations. Folks, this was just so much fun, and, what else can I do but laugh at this point? This code is pretty crazy, So let's get into the first topic, the voice. What is the voice of Pi 3.14? Well, I decided to bring in some advanced decoding, and I hope some of you that have been following along during this great research, I hope you're including the sine and cosine waves in the numbering sequences, and what I feel to be the vibrational frequency, the timestamp, or at least the presence of these numbers inside the reality we are making up called the game of life. And the sine and cosine waves, of course, are linked to the mathematical expressions of trigonometry. And I feel that this has a lot of merit, folks. That's why I have the sine and cosine waves in the background, and the puppet on strings, the marionette, of course, and there's that element xenon, which comes from the word xenos in the Greek, and it means stranger. I had this in my decode of Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. I have that included here, but here's the sine and cosine waves of the number 314, pi itself, folks, and there they are. The vibrational frequency that this number puts out on the world stage, it is a 67 and a 64. Of course, this is tied to the God element, and this is tied to holmium. 67th element, which is the most magnetic element on the periodic table. So how about that? So if we have the most magnetic element in holmium and the GOD element and tied to our codons of our DNA. So if when you syncretize that, you can clearly see what's going on. And 3.14, folks, is tied to this element because xenon has an atomic weight of 131, the 54th element on the periodic table. And that, of course, it led to this slide, which I came out with on my first Decode on Pi Decoded, and it's the lizard people. And of course, what does this have to do with, of course, the voice of 3.14? Remember, this is what Pink Floyd said, folks, in the song called Brain Damage. Notice the title of that song, Brain Damage, off of Dark Side of the Moon. And David Gilmour sang in that song, "There's someone in my head, but it's not me." And that's a 131, which was linked to xenon. And of course, this is the very reason, the flash of creation, it being green. And there's a lot of syncs in there. 5 and 4, and what I feel is father, son. And the 5th and 4th chakras, and the 2 dominant colors in nature when you get into the coloring expressions. But there it is. It means stranger, the voice in your head, the voice that's not your own. And then you syncretize this Cable 54 in the movie They Live. I have this decode coming up soon. And the whole storyline is that this news station in the movie is broadcasting a signal to hypnotize you, to keep you in a trance, and to keep you asleep, to keep you under control, to keep you a slave. And it's tied to the lizard, the reptilians, perhaps, which is linked to the draconians, tied to the element Krypton, which is tied to Superman, which is why he had this suit, and the lizard and the reptilian skin. Folks, I'm telling you, this is what the Matrix, this reality is telling us, is what's going on. Someone in my head, but it's not me, and it's linked to the number 314. So how about that, folks? 314 tied to xenon, tied to They Live, lizard people, and the broadcasting of the frequency. And perhaps that's exactly what's going on in our reality, is this 131. And of course, it's tied to the demiurge, because 131 could be 113. That's the 30th prime number, which is linked to demiurge, Santa, holmium, all that kind of stuff syncs up with that. So that's the starting point of it, folks. Let's get into the second topic, which is 1988. Why 1988? Because Pi Day was founded by Larry Shaw, Lawrence Shaw, in 1988. He was an employee of the Exploratorium up in San Francisco. And you can even decode San Francisco. Folks, it just goes so deep, and it shows you the code, and, and this guy, Lawrence Shaw. But what's so significant about this number 88? Of course, it's tied to yttrium, tied to Skull and Bones, tied to Yale, tied to Lucifer's original spelling in his name of Hyll in Isaiah 14 verses 12. So there's some links to Lucifer in there. But the 88, folks, in the string of pi, look at where it's found and what it occupies. 2 digits. It's the 34th and 35th decimal digits of pi. That's where the number 88 is located. And when you add up 34 and 35, you're going to get the number 69, which is the yin yang. So how about that, folks? 88 is tied to the number 69, which, if you saw my decode on Lucifer on the Netflix show, he flashes up the number 69 in one of the episodes. Folks, for good reason. This is all synced up. It's all part of the story, part of the software called the Game of Life. Of course, 88 miles an hour, Back to the Future. That's why I have it there. It's all the tie-ins, and this is about time travel. And then if you've seen my decode on Azazel, teleportation, time travel, it all links in. And then, of course, make the truth your own. What does it mean to you? It's not a matter of what it means to me. I'm just here to show you my discoveries. So let's get into the third topic. Lawrence Shaw, the guy who coined Pi Day itself, and there he is. And San Francisco's Exploratorium, and it is now a national holiday. 3.14. Lawrence Shaw. And folks, this is, I wish I would have included this in the first one, but it doesn't matter. I'm including it now. But folks, this is where I mean, is this guy real? Is he fake? You know, like, I mean, I have a feeling I want to reach out because he's got a couple of children. They're both, one's a doctor, one's a veterinarian. But like, you know, if I go to the Exploratorium up in San Francisco, is there somebody that really knows this guy to make him real? Or is this just fabricated to mock you and pull the woolly over your eyes? You got to use your common sense and logic here. I mean, you know, think about it, folks. What would the point be of creating all this fabrication of this guy on Pi Day and, you know, Lawrence Shaw not existing? It's not real. You know, at some point, folks, you got to draw the line and figure out what's real and what's not, fiction versus nonfiction. Because, you know, again, we live in a simulation anyway. But nonetheless, let's go through this, folks. This is where it blew my freaking doors off, is the decode of Lawrence Shaw, the guy who coined and founded Pi Day. But here's his parameters on his birth to death stamp. Born in Washington, D.C. and passed in Petaluma, California. And look at, he was born as a Leo and he passed as a Leo. Leo the lion, the royal star of the lion. That has some syncs to this, which is, of course, that's 69. Royal Star of the Lion is 69, and you go right back to there, and there's the 69 with the 88. The 88's tied to the 69, tied to the 39. It all syncs up, and this is all part of the code in the software. But here's his two cards. Adding another layer to this now, folks. Not just using numerology or gematria. We add now cards to this, which has everything to do, the relevance of these cards. I've showed how important 52 cards, 52 weeks, 4 suits, 4 seasons. Your cards, I guarantee you, if you look up your birth cards, they're going to be 90 to 95% accurate. How's that possible? How can somebody describe you when they don't even know you? Because the game of life is fixed. So this guy has his birth card, which is the Ace Diamonds, the 27th card, August 12th, and then his death card is the 7 of Clubs, which is the card number 20. And let me just be really transparent. So August 12th and August 19th, here's the boilerplate chart for the cards. Just so we're very transparent. Here's the month of August going down to, here's day number 12 going over to August. Here it is. It's the Ace Diamonds. And then he passed on the 19th, which is right here, the 7 Clubs card. So we have the Ace Diamonds, 7 of Clubs. It's the 27th card and the 20th card. Let's be really transparent with that. Here we go. Ace Diamonds. Here's the natural lineages of the cards. Ace Diamonds is the 27th card, and then he passed with the 7 Clubs. Here it is. It's card number 20. When you add up 27 and 20, folks, get out your calculators. What's 27 plus 20? 47. Tetragrammaton. I mean, I keep showing this, and, you know, some of you have caught on to that. You know, Tetragrammaton is the Greek name for the God of the Bible. Washington, D.C. equals 47, the guy where the guy was born. White House equals 47. Georgetown, the university in Washington, D.C. equals 47. And folks, that's just using the Chaldean. I don't have to go out of the realm of using another numerology cipher. I just stick with the Chaldean. I can show you all the foundation of how this reality is synced up. So going a little bit further with the guy who founded Pi Day. And it's gold, folks. Because when you say Ace Diamond, 7 Clubs, it's 79, that is gold. And how many times I've been showing that it's our frequency, our gold, our energetic frequency. We're being mined for our gold. And this guy's a big part of that. When you look at his birth city to death city, folks, you get gold again. You get gold again, matching that of his 2 cards. So how about that, folks? So again, do you think man could, what would the point be? And do you realize what you'd have to go into doing a big conspiracy on somebody like this? just to pull the woolly over your eyes on and mock you on something that has no relevance to any kind of murders or anything like that, folks. But we're finding the same patterns in things like this that you'll find in the mainstream and movies and music. It's all freaking connected in this game of life, folks. There is no separation. So yeah, there's really people out doing things that are bad or evil, absolutely, but man's being used. And we're just playing out the script. And this is no different what I'm showing you here. When you look at his numbers of his birth to death stamp, the 12th and the 19th, the two ones come together magnetically. If you kind of observe numbers this way, it would be the 11 and the 29. And when you look up 1129, it's the 189th prime number. I mean, think about this, folks. Maybe you've never observed numbers this way. I do. Because when you bring numbers together, numbers attract. Frequencies attract. So the two ones come together and the 2 and the 9 come together, and that's the 189th prime number, which is linked to this element right here called osmium, which is the Wizard of Oz. I've shown this in many, many layers on different topics. The Wizard of Oz, 76. The Wizard of Oz is tied to this guy's birth to death stamp. And this is the one that just this is the one that really made me laugh, folks, because I'm reading through the bio of this gentleman who, came up with Pi Day, and I was reading, he's born to the parents Wilfred and Ida, and his father worked for the Department of Agriculture. Now, I have no way to fact check this. But, again, it's just funny because of the synchronicities. Because you see, this element right here, Cerium, is named after the asteroid Ceres, which then the Romans ended up linking it to the goddess of agriculture. You see the syncs there, folks? I mean, they're undeniable, really. But do you realize what would go into, trying to create a conspiracy on this to have things match up? Someone would have to go into Wikipedia and they would purposely have to do that. But what for? What for? This has no rituals and murder going on. This has nothing to do with that. But yet here we are, and you can clearly see, and we know, what is the 58? It's Puppet Master. And what is the element Cerium? What's one of its atomic weights? It's frickin' pi. It's pi, folks. And this guy's got it directly tied to the story of his parents. It just blows me away, folks. It just, man, I'm telling you. But nonetheless, here's his family in the story. The story goes on. It's Catherine, his wife, and then his daughters, Tara and Sarah. And when you do the decode on those four, Lawrence, Catherine, Tara, and Sarah, you once again get the Wizard of Oz. Matching that of his birth to death stamp. Folks, I could keep going with this, and it just gets ridiculous. It just continually gets, even when you keep going down the hole, it just gets even more and more complicated, more and more ridiculous. I mean, look at this, folks. Larry and Catherine celebrated their wedding anniversary 54 times. What's 54? Xenon. There's a stranger in my head. There's something in my head, but it's not me. It's the 314 sine and cosine waves of 131. So again, folks, you'd have to, someone really to consciously sit down and do this for what? It's just, folks, this is the story. And man didn't write it. Man's just playing out the part. I mean, here's another thing. They were married in 1963. 63 is copper. Copper's 29. 29 is Yaldabaoth. I showed how big Yaldabaoth was in the last or in the first decode, and I got more to show you on Yaldabaoth, the Gnostic demiurge. I mean, tied to the YHVH, the Yod-He Vahe. Probably either one works for the other, or they're both the same character. There's no separation. It's just a dilution. It's, you know, wearing a different wardrobe, so it can't. And copper is, you know, tied to the Temple of Jerusalem, tied to biblical stuff and theology. Folks, it just goes so deep. So then, folks, you know, when you take the magnesium and potassium and you do the alchemy of these two, 24.305 and 39.098, and you do the alchemy of that, folks, you're going to get the number 63 ... But there's the tie-in to copper, which is tied to Yaldabaoth. I mean, folks, you know, even his freaking birth to death stamp, if you add up 12 and 19, you're going to get 31. What's pi? 3.14. I mean, do you see the sinks? What would go into this? The layers to contrive a massive conspiracy to pull a woolly over your eyes to mock you. You know, I mean, folks, it just wouldn't make any sense. Here's another expression of it. So there's a pi shrine installed up at the Exploratorium up in San Francisco, and it's made out of brass. Of all metals, it's made out of brass. And what's brass? Copper, folks. You see the sinks? This just gets ridiculous. And I mean, was Larry conscious of Yaldabaoth and brass and copper and just decided, well, that's the metal I'm going to use as the pi shrine? You know, is that how it works? I mean, it's just crazy. And folks, you know, I just to show you, I mean, pi, when you look at this symbol, it's the letter T once and twice. And when I go to the numerology cipher for that, here it is, and you put in the two T's, not only is it 44 in currency, but when you go look at the English, it's a 2020. This is pi right there. When you look at it from the English alphabet. And what is 40, folks? Let me show you what 40 is. It's this element right here called zirconium. Death and regeneration. It means gold colored. Being mined for our gold. Let me show you. Go down to the oxidation states and isotopes. And let me show you the one that has the highest percentage is 89.905. And what is 89? It's Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth. Just off the two T's that make up pi. There it is, 40. Linked to zirconium. Linked to the 89 in Yaldabaoth. Folks, you can't make this stuff up, and this is all linking and connecting together. Tied to copper. Tied to pi's symbol, folks. Just goes so deep. Just goes so deep. And I mean, you know, here's just more nail in the coffin kind of stuff. March 14th is a 29. That's tied directly to Yaldabaoth. Folks, you can clearly see, folks. I mean, it's just... All right, so let's get into the, of course I'm going to look it up. Let's get into the area code. What city and state has the area code 314? I was just really curious. And it's Missouri. It is the city of St. Louis. And what's so fascinating about this sink here, folks, is from what I found online, it was originally created in 1947, which is Tetragrammaton, tied to the Yod, tied to Yaldabaoth. All tied together, folks. October's the 10th month. The 10th letter in the Hebrew alphabet is the Yod. It's the letter Y. You can't make this stuff up, folks. It's just, let's go further. 1947 is tied to the 47, and the 47 is tied to this original word in the Hebrew. This means the tree of knowledge. Let me show you. Let's be really transparent. Let me see if I can find. Here you guys can see what I've been up to. Let's look at this. Let me show you, folks. There it is. Just so we can be really super transparent. You know that I'm not trying to pull the woolly over your eyes But here it is right here. It's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. There it is. And the full, because these two letters means the tree. And then, of course, this is the knowledge of good and evil. That's going to equal the number 81, which, of course, is tied to Krypton. And that goes right back to the lizard people and all that kind of stuff. So there's just so many syncs, and I could just keep going with so many slides, but there's the 47. And of course, when were the Dead Sea Scrolls found? 1946 to 1947. 46 is the tree of life. 47 is the tree of knowledge. That's our DNA. It's just all linked to this right here. And it's linked to the freaking pi, folks. It's linked to pi. So where is the number 47 found in the string of pi? It's not just found anywhere. It's found it starts at the 119th decimal digit of pi, which of course it's 119, 120, that's 239. It's the higher version of the 39, which is tied to the 88. I could keep going with this, folks. It's insane, the syncs. But here's where we go right back to the reptilians again, folks. It's the element tin. It's the merger of worlds, the 50. Tied to if you haven't seen my Decode on the Georgia Guidestones, it's clearly linked to the reptilian stuff. 119 right there. And of course, then we get the visual. You go to the medicine card deck, the 52. These came out in 1988, folks. Folks, it's just funny. And it's the alligator card. What are alligators? They're reptilians. Just gotta have fun with this, I guess. I don't know what else to do, but here are the coordinates of St. Louis, the city that owns the 314 area code. The latitude, longitude, X marks the spot, the ley lines over the earth. This has everything to do with our reality as well. The energy that's coming down and moving from east to west, north to south in the box. And the subtleties, folks, 38 and 9, there is the reduction. It's the 9. You see it right there, folks. It's the 911, matching that of the 50th element, matching that of the alligator, matching that of the 47 and the original area code created in October of 1947. Folks, it's just silly. It's crazy to think man's not coding this. Man's not coding this, folks. Here's the reduction of the addition of the latitude, longitude. It is the number 58, which is the puppet master. And remember, Lawrence Shaw is tied to that 58 and the 141. So St. Louis, the city that owns the 314 area code, that's a 27. 27 we know is currency. It's tied to the word currency and current, and it's tied to the dragon card. I didn't even add that in there, but the element on the periodic table that ties it all in, the bridge, is cobalt. Cobalt, I feel, is the chaos and order element. And, what does the 2 and 7 mean? 2 means duality. 7 is the crown. And together they end up giving all their energy to the number 9, which means endings and completions. 2 plus 7 is 9. But look at what cobalt has for an atomic weight. 58. 58, folks, is that puppet master. And tied to the 141 in Cerium, folks. It's just, you can see the syncs, folks. It could have been any city in the United States to have that 314 area code. But nope, it's got to be St. Louis and the 27 because, of course, it has to fit into the equation. This is all code in the software in the game of life, folks. Kind of like SimCity, and when you write the code, you watch my Decode on the Minecraft. All of that is code. To build a city, it requires code. And our reality called the game of life is nothing other than code, folks. I mean, just here's another St. Louis, Missouri, the city and state that holds the 314 area code. Look at what a total is, folks. It's a double 27, by the way. Missouri's 27, St. Louis is 27, but together they form the number 54, once again tied to there's someone in my head, but it's not me. And there's that great arch. And when you go look at the arch in St. Louis, you can go decode this. I mean, look how tall it is. 630 feet. What's 63? It's copper. Going right back to Yaldabaoth again, folks. Right back to it. Just the subtleties that some of you see. Look how many stars it has. 4.7 right now at this span of time is when I do this decode. I mean, folks, it just goes so deep, really, and the syncs are insane when you look at all this stuff. And there it is. It goes right back. Here's the 314, the sine and cosine waves. There's someone in my head, but it's not me, tied to that 131. There it is, St. Louis. city and state that owns the 314 area code is tied to the sine and cosine waves and trigonometry of the number 314? Are you freaking kidding me? And you think people think man's coding this. God, anyways, folks, I'm going to keep pushing that too, because I'm getting a lot of persecution. I'm going to push right back. I'm going to push right freaking back. You bet your ass I'm going to do that. So let's get into what's Tau Day. I didn't even know this existed, Tau Day, but there it is. Read with me at the top. June 28th is called 2 Pi Day, also known as Tau Day. 2 Pi. And it's taken from the Greek letter tau, which is right here, folks. It's like 1/2 of pi. You see how it's kind of one of those? So it's 1 T's, which is 20. 20 is duality, and 20 is down in a hole, and all that stuff. But notice there they are, and it's the pi is in the modern alphabet. It's the 16th letter. In the older one, it'll be the 17th. But numbers encroach, and that would be 33. But nonetheless, it's 16 and 19, and they've picked June 28th as 2 Pi Day, the Tau Day. Because again, these have synchronicities because this is 1/2 of this. And of course, I did the timestamp. Here it is. March 14th, Pi Day, to June 28th, which is Tau Day. It's 106 days in between, 3 months and 14 days. But the crazy sync is when you do the string of pi. Where's that found? At 106? Folks, look at where it's found. At the 1011th decimal digit of pi. And of course, 111 is tied to 1.21 gigawatts, a bolt of lightning in Back to the Future. That's tied to the number 88. 1.21 gigawatts is tied to antimony and the all-seeing eye. Folks, it's just, you can clearly see man's not coding this. It's just being used to lay out the code. So when you look at the cards, it tells us even more of the story. Here is pi. I showed this is the Pi Day card. It's the 9 diamonds, which is the 81, which is tied to Krypton and Yaldabaoth and the lizard people and all that. But it's card number 35. And then you have the 19th letter and June 28th, which is the 2 clubs. And folks, what is this right here? Well, it's the number 92 or the number 20. What's 29? 29, folks, when you go right back to, man, I can't find my... And you go right back to the Yaldabaoth again, and there it is. It's 29, folks. You can see the 29 there, folks. You can see it. I mean, yeah, you can say it's the 92. Well, if you take 92 and 29 and add that up, you're going to get 121. 121 is the all-seeing eye, 51 in antimony. So here's the elements extending upon the cards and these 2 days, Pi Day and Tau Day. And it's the 35th card, the 9 diamonds, and then the 15th card of the 2 clubs. And here are the 2 elements, bromine, and which you got gold there, you see the gold, and then you got phosphorus. This is one of Lucifer's links. And when you take 35 and 15, which are these 2 cards, the 35th card and the 15th card, get out your calculators, 35 and 15, that's going to give you the number 50. Leading right back to the alligator and the 47 and the area code and the reptilians. Folks, it's just funny. So, Pi Day and Tau Day, 14th and the 28th. And it sits right on this element right there. There is the average atomic weight of silicon. It's 2814. 14 is time. The word God and time and Satan all tied to Silicon. Silicon Valley, the tech capital of the world. Digitizing our world, going into the micro. Of course, Lucifer equals 28, Satan equals 14. You got it right there, folks. You see 14 and 28. There it is. Pi Day and Tau Day. Silicon, 14 and 28. So when you go here, there's the 14, and then you type in Lucifer, and there's the 28. So ultimately, you have Satan and Lucifer. And of course, being tied to the 42, which is tied to Trojan horse, tied to the crucifixion. Folks, the story's all bullshit. It's what it is. It's designed to suck your energy. And there's the expression of that tied to pi, folks. I mean, how about that, folks? Silicon, folks. So let's get into my last topic for this presentation, and of course Albert Einstein. And a lot of you caught this. I wasn't even aware. I mean, I know all the decoding I do, it's completely slipped my mind. I never looked into Albert Einstein and his birthday, but it's on Pi Day, March 14th. And, I mean, first and foremost, his age, the timestamps. Again, I believe man's being used. We come down here, we incarnate into these avatars, and we have only a certain amount of time, but, maybe part of the game is leveling up and doing good deeds. I don't know if it's based on karma and reincarnation, if that is really the truth. But notice what he passed on at age 76, which is tied to osmium. I showed this before. This is the Wizard of Oz. So whatever this means to you, folks, but I know what it means to me, but it's a matter of what it means to you, what you see. So, look at Albert Einstein and his breakdown in numerology. I mean, Albert is 17, the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh is 17, 29 is Yaldabaoth, matching his last name, Einstein. He's got the 51 in his capstones of his name if you study numerology, but it's a total of 46. 46. Tied to the tree of life, the mirror of the 64 codons. And folks, when you look at the 46 in the string of pi, it occupies two spaces. Get out your calculators, 19 and 20. When you add up 19 and 20, you're going to get the number 39. How about that? 39, folks. Tied to the element yttrium, tied to 88. Folks, there's a reason why there's 88 constellations. There's a very specific reason why there's 88 keys on a piano. There's a reason why there's 88 miles an hour in Back to the Future. There's a reason why 88's tied to the yin yang, and it's tied to so many other things, because it's in the code. And this guy, not only is he tied to the tree of life, that side of the DNA, but he's tied to yttrium. This is where Yale came from. Skull and Bones is 39. I showed this. And some people are going to say, oh, he was Skull and Bones. Oh, that must mean he's a Jesuit. Because, there it is. Now, I'm not saying he's not. Or he wasn't. I don't know. I don't know the guy personally. And none of you knew the guy personally. So all we can go on are theories and opinions. That's it. I don't go on those. I go on what I can decode. That's what gives me my truth. I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but that's what I go off of, is what I can decode. And so there it is. This is the tree of life in the biblical sense. The original spelling in Hebrew, it's 46. I showed the tree of knowledge, it's 47. How about that? 46 and 47. Tree of life, tree of knowledge. It's our DNA, folks. I mean, the Dead Sea Scrolls, guess what year they were found? 1946 to 1947. Tree of life, tree of knowledge. How about Albert Einstein's alchemology? Now, if you're new to this, alchemology is what I've coined it. It's taking numerology and then bringing alchemy into it, combining the two, and then getting an outcome. So we would take Albert Einstein's letters of his name and get the numbering output from the letters, and then we match those up with the elements on the periodic table. And Albert Einstein, these are his elements. You should be doing this with yours and finding out what your alchemology is. I've showed you how to do that on how to decode yourself. Over 14,000 of you have watched that video. Thank you so much for your support on that. And it shows you how to do that. I used Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons. I showed you using him as an example. But here's another example of how accurate this is, alchemology. Here is the elements on the periodic table added up using the trusty calculator. And it becomes the number 98.131. What's 131? It's xenon. There's someone in my head, but it's not me, on the feminine side. And then it's 98. And then, of course, I want to know where that's found out in the string of pi, folks. 98 occupies two spaces, space number 80 and space number 81. And if you get out your calculators and you add up 80 and 81, you're going to get the number 161. And the last time I checked, that was the freaking golden ratio. Albert Einstein's alchemology leads to the golden ratio. And if you do the full spelling of the tree of life and tree of knowledge, it's going to be 80 and 81. Golden ratio. I showed that in so many other depictions. And folks, I got a few slides left. This is the city that Albert Einstein was born in. According to everything I found, again, maybe the big conspiracy runs deep. I don't know, trying to mock you. But here it is, Albert Einstein, and he was born in Ulm, Germany. And Ulm is a 13, and when you reduce that down, it gives you frickin' pi, folks. I mean, can you see that? It's right. It's just funny. It's just really funny. So, of course, naturally, look at the latitude, longitude, the coordinates of Ulm, Germany, and there are the coordinates, 48 degrees north and 9 degrees east. And when you add up the entire latitude, longitude, and the trusty calculator, look at what number you get. 58. 0.3887, but 58's tied to the element called Cerium, which is tied to the goddess of agriculture, and of course that's the element that contains pi itself is 141. So folks, do you think this is just a big conspiracy trying to mock you, trying to pull the wool over your eyes? Or do you think that there's some grand design behind our reality and man's just playing out the script? Because to me, clearly, common sense and logic, man is being used to play out the script. Everything's just coded. And the puppet master, whatever you want to call it, but it's clearly, the goddess of agriculture it goes really deep. I started studying that. I could have brought those elements in there, but I wanted to keep this video on the, at least shorter than usual, because some of you have a short attention span, and I get it. I do too. But nonetheless, folks, how do you wrap your mind around this and describe it any other way, what you're seeing? And what would be the point of trying to mock you with this stuff? And do you realize what would have to go into someone actually having to sit down and design this guy's life? I mean, was Albert Einstein a fake? I mean, was he not real? Obviously, some people believe he was a fraud and all that kind of stuff, but that's not the point. No matter what, he still has a big stake in the game of life. And clearly his life was not his own. I mean, that's clear. So let me finish up just with some fun stuff, folks. This is, I didn't know this. I was looking up his city and, decoding a little bit, and I didn't know, but Ulm, Germany currently it has the tallest church of all buildings. It has the tallest church. And what's really fascinating is when you decode the word church, it's going to give you 24, which is tied to our X chromosomes. But nonetheless, it's got the tallest church in the world. And the completion of it was It was on May 31st, and that's 315, and of course that's the enneagram for the 153, which is tied to the fish that Jesus and the apostles caught, and it's the actual measurement of the Vesica Pisces and all that stuff. But it's, the 31st of May is the Ace Clubs card, which is the 14th card in the deck, as in 3.14. It's just fun, folks, but you can see the code. You can see the code and how strong this code is. And I'm decoding something that has nothing to do with really anything. But yet here we are talking about the tallest church in the world, and it being not only tied to the 153 and the fish and the Vesica Pisces, and that's the fish bladder tied to our DNA, the tree of life, tree of knowledge. That's where the NFL football came into play. But it's the 14th of all cards. And let me just be really transparent. Here it is. The Ace Clubs card is the 14th card in the deck. And, it's just funny, folks. To me, it's just really, really funny how all this code shows up like this. So that's all I got, folks, for this decode. What is it you saw during this presentation, folks? To me, it gets super funny now, because clearly when you finally can see the code for what it is, it's all fixed. Unless, because there is a guy named Jane108, and he says that pi is miscalculated. It's actually 3.144, and I haven't really I don't know how many digits he's gone into pi, so, it may be limited, but he claims that's the pattern of nature. So maybe 3.141 is the facade. Maybe the 3.141 is the hypnotic trance that they're broadcasting to keep you under slave and under mob rules. Under the demiurge's rule, folks. Yaldabaoth, the Draconians, the Reptilians, it just so many layers to look at with all of this kind of stuff. But clearly you can see that Lawrence Shaw and Albert Einstein, their lives are not their own. They're just not. They're just being used to express their code. So anyway, folks, what is it you saw during this presentation? I'd love to hear your comments. Keep them coming. But that's all I got for today. My name is Logan. This is Decode Your Reality. I thank each and every one of you for watching, your support, your Patreons. And until next time, we'll see you later.